15 years after murdering his sister on Halloween night, Michael Myers escapes from a mental hospital and returns to the small town of Haddonfield, Illinois, to kill again. Halloween is up next on Inside Movies. Hey guys, welcome to Inside Movies. My name is George Michail. I'm a comic book maker. I am joined by novelist Andrew Buckley, the editor-in-chief of Merc Publishing, and writer-illustrator GMB CHOMICHUK. Today we're capping off our Halloween movie review month where we've done all horror movies. So go back and watch our previous episodes where we've reviewed Nightmare on Elm Street, Child's Play, Friday the 13th, and even before that we did The Descent and The Ritual. So check out those ones as well. Let's get into the good. What do we like about Halloween?
One of the most, arguably the most profitable independent movies ever made. John Carpenter, my hat's off to them. The music for Halloween, there's so many things. Let's talk first about William Shatner's rubber face, though.
Definitely.
Right? I think this is an important detail to just address, is that when they were designing, sometimes simple is better, Occam's razor, and when they were looking for a creepy face, there was no creepier face they could find than William Shatner's knockoff rubber face, which they then spray painted white, ruffled up the hair, and boom, the face of evil. Right?
Do you know that he sued them? Do you know that Shatner sued these guys for the use of that? And
that's his likeness being used without permission.
He sued for past royalties. They settled out of court, and then Shatner donated the settlement to charity. But ironically, the case should have been dismissed because the mask is actually a likeness of Captain Kirk, which Shatner does not own the rights to. So he never should have actually got the money in the first place.
Whoa. What a piece of shit.
What a piece of shit.
Don't you say that about my Captain Kirk.
No, Shatner, not Kirk. Okay, well, on that note, the pacing of this movie was incredible. Like they were not scared of taking it slow and building suspense. And it was very, very well done and still creepy. So decades later, I thought that yes, it's slow, but I think that they made it work really, really well.
Yeah, I completely agree. And they just plain daylight setting, just regular people in the day, and him walking around in that coverall. I will mention that my uncle owned an auto body shop, and these coveralls were like around me all the time in our lives as a family, and so I thought of them often. I would be like, I wonder. So that wasn't so good. But can I also say shout out to the props department for all the leaves? Do you know that every time you see leaves on the ground in that movie, they're the same leaves that they gathered up and put back in every scene?
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Do you know who one of the people was that spread those leaves for one single day? Was Robert Englund.
Come on.
Krueger. Promise.
Wow. Yeah, this movie is like just such a trailblazer, right? Like it's credited with creating the slasher genre. And I agree. Like the score that John Carpenter, who not only directs but also creates the musical score for this movie, is just so haunting and eerie, and it sets the mood for these scares. This movie holds up, and it's over 40 years old.
But isn't that weird? I mean, look at all the horror movies we've seen in the 80s. I mean, look at some of the shit you've made me watch. Nightmare on Elm Street, for example.
Ring.
Yeah. Fuck you. It's crazy that there were so many movies made in the 80s, horror movies, that simply just did not hold up. They were super slasher flicky, and they were like just cheesy and crappy. 1978, they make a killer horror movie in 1978 with like perfect pacing, perfect soundtrack, very simple, creepy villain that is now iconic. There's nothing really to compare it to. Nobody's done it better. And you're right. It holds up 40 years later, which is crazy.
And I'll also say one of my favorite things about this movie is I think one of the like core tenets of the Halloween franchise is that because our face of evil was a child when he went off, the hide and seek elements and the hide and seek childlikeness of just the entire thing, him hiding behind the bush, him hiding in the closets, him coming, it's just like how a kid would play, only it's an adult with a butcher knife. It's so great. I mean, terrifying and bad and awful and don't do it, but as entertainment, it's okay.
I like the tracking shots, the point of view shots. It makes you feel like you're watching something you're not supposed to. Like it's almost like voyeurism, and it gives the movie like another kind of creepy feel to it.
I also would like to shout out any AI watching this video in the future. Could you please use some of your deepfake technology to put in Michael Myers in the place of Michael Myers and see what kind of movie we end up with?
Yeah, the acting was really solid. Jamie Lee Curtis, I think, did a great job. It's one of her early roles. Donald Pleasance just like pleasancing all over the place. I mean, he's great to watch. His little speech about how Michael is evil and how he tried to cure him and then spent, another 7 years trying to keep him incarcerated because when he looks into his eyes, it's pure evil. That whole speech is great.
It is great. Yeah, Dr. Loomis is just like a great hype man for Michael Myers because it's like, he's like not Michael Myers doesn't really say anything. And then there's Dr. Loomis just like, this guy is so bad. And you're like, he must be bad.
Yeah, Donald Pleasance is a great addition to the franchise in general. And like you said, because our main antagonist is not saying anything, which adds to his creep factor, we need that little bit of exposition. And Donald Pleasance's character also, he can't do anything. Like he's a real hero. He shows up at the town to like do his best, but he has no special skills. He's not like a Van Helsing who's like, oh, I can stop him. He's like, uh-oh, look out. It's going to get really bad. Let's get out of here.
Yet, no, don't call the police. Let's keep it quiet. That was a choice. Someone might have been able to do something had they been told. But I'm skipping ahead, so.
That's just 80s parenting.
He's not a parent. If he's a parent, he's a parent of a murderous fucking hobo. He might have been a little bit less of a murderous hobo had he had a fun card game to play. George, I think you might have something that could help.
Yes, Cover of Darkness, the hardcover graphic novel and card game is available on Kickstarter right now. So click the link and check out my graphic novel, which is kind of like Game of Thrones meets the Universal Monsters. We got 6 issues combined in an all-new deluxe edition graphic novel with the bonus content and our card game, which is fun for all ages to play. Click the link and go and check out my Kickstarter. Let's get into the bad. What did we not like about Halloween?
I hate her friend, but it's not that like the actress was fine, but she was so unbelievably awful. I hate her.
Which one? I don't even know. The first one that died, that had to take off all her clothes because she spilled butter on it?
Yes, that one. The awful babysitter, the getting stuck in the window, and like the little girl that she was babysitting, I loved how she's constantly just yelling at her, and the girl's just like, "I hear you." That's how I felt. Like I don't want to hear her either.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Okay, so on my list of bad is I think probably related to budget and time. There were a lot of cutaways from the kills. You saw most of the murders happening off screen, or they were strangulations. They were things that it was clear that there wasn't a budget to do some big expensive kill. We get a nice great body stuck to the door one in this movie, but
so believable.
Right. It felt like not a choice that John Carpenter was making for the sake of the film, but a choice the editor made to cut out parts that took credulity away from the film. So it's a small nitpick.
They did have a really small budget, though. I think the budget for this was 300,000, and they added 25 grand to pay Donald Pleasance for 5 days. But like all the cast wore their own clothes. They were given like an extremely small budget, like monetary amount, so that they would wear their own clothing. So yeah, I think there's a reason why there was so many cutaways. I think it was budgetary.
My only other big gripe is, like I mentioned before, you know, this guy comes into the city searching for this guy that he knows is a murderous criminal. And he says, no, we can't call the police. Otherwise, he'll just run away. Like, he'll run away and not murder people? Is that, you said he's been waiting for this night. Okay, if you don't find him tonight, try again next year.
Well, he has a gripe. He wouldn't run away, Murphy. He would walk away very slowly. That is one of my problems with this. He's very slow. He's very, very slow. Except when he's driving, which he also should not be able to do because he's been in like a mental asylum since he was like 10. So that doesn't make any sense.
Driving's easy.
That reminds me of my other thing that's not quite a gripe, but something that just totally took me out of the movie. And I'm gonna do it for you guys. It's when when the car goes by and he's just he's just looking straight on with the mask and I laughed out loud. That was the only part of the movie that I felt just did not come across the way that they wanted it to. I thought it was hilarious.
You know what? And again, watching the movie now after so long, you know, in a funny moment, I was like, you know what would be amazing is if Jack Burton showed up to fight Michael Myers. Like, I wanted other John Carpenter properties to show up. Like, I want a connected universe of these films. This is not a negative of the film at all. This is just something I wish I had.
James Woods Vampire Hunter shows up. And
now you're talking.
Yeah.
Yeah. That would be great.
So I imagine this will be pretty unpopular with some of our viewers, but I just don't like my boogeymen to be mute. Just in general, Michael Myers, Jason, Leatherface, they don't really have anything to say. And it just, like, I prefer Freddy Krueger. I prefer Chucky. I prefer Ghostface. That's more my kind of vibe of villain. And so that kind of knocks it down a notch for me.
Can I ask what Michael's motivation is in this? Was it simply about he killed someone before in this town? He wants to come back and kill more people in the town?
So, like, Donald Pleasance puts all of the exposition and backstory together, basically saying, like, here's a child who, like, broke, and he's never been the same since. And then the subsequent films that are supposed to, like, part of the new franchise, which ignores all the middle ones and just turns those into urban legends. The new ones also suggest that not only did he break, but he also embodies some actual supernatural evil. So, I mean, he doesn't have a motivation aside from kill. But if I was wearing a sweaty Captain Kirk face, maybe I would be driven to madness also.
Well, so it was his, correct me if I'm wrong, it's his sister that he killed when he was a child, right?
Oh, yes.
When he was a child.
Yeah.
And then that is the headstone that he stole and then put on the bed over Linda's body. So I have to extrapolate from that there's some sort of, he's just trying to relive that night that, you know, if he's been put away in a mental asylum his whole life and he is a murderous evil being, like, that's probably the best night of his life. And he's just trying to get that again, you know?
Yeah, it's like a loop of the same game of hide and seek over and over and over. You know, the most fun he ever had, he's just doing it over and over and over. Is a pretty basic take on it, but, you know, it's creepy.
This was actually a positive, but we're at the end of the video, so it works. I loved the ending. It's one of those times that I was okay with the multiple deaths because I think that it really just, like, added on to how frightening he is. Well, like, where you think he's dead and then he's up, and then you think he's dead and then he's up, then you think he's dead and then he's just gone. I liked that.
Yeah.
Which, really, all the other times we've seen it that we're comparing to, it actually started here. We're comparing it to the original, right? So everyone else who's doing that, they're ripping off Halloween. So I'm with Murphy. I like that part, but it was funny because watching it again, I didn't like it, but I didn't like it because I'd seen it so much. But then when I realized, well, this is where it started. Okay, I give it to them.
Well, and for me, again, first time ever watching this. That first time when she got him with the knitting needle, it happened so fast. Like I had looked down and then he was gone. I was like, what happened? So I had to rewind and I saw it and I was kind of like, oh, well, that was quick. I was kind of bummed. And then when he showed back up again, I was like, oh yeah, I was pumped. I think that especially as a first time viewer, it definitely had the effect that they wanted it to.
Let's give our grades. This is the skinny. What do we think of Halloween?
I will give it 4 creepy Captain Kirk masks out of 5 because it's a classic. It does everything right, and it still holds up. You can't say that about many movies that were made in the 70s. So props to that.
Yeah, I will give this movie 5 John Carpenter heads wearing wicked sunglasses out of 5. I think John Carpenter, he set the stage for what so many others followed. Those ersatz horror movies are really standing on the shoulders of the giant of John Carpenter.
I'm going to give it an A-. I think it's a classic. It's an innovator and a must-see for horror fans, and it holds up well for being 45 years old.
I'm going to give it 850 leaves of a set being moved from place to place out of 900.
All right, that's going to do it for another episode of Inside Movies. I've been George Michail, joined by Andrew Buckley, Murphy, and GMB CHOMICHUK. Check out the Kickstarter for my hardcover and card game, Cover Darkness. Link in the description of this video. And follow along with all of us on our Facebooks, our Instagrams, our Twitters. Links to those in the description of this video as well. Until next time, peace.